For our next presenter, if you have been monitoring the BlueHat tag on Twitter, you would have seen that Dr. Nestori Syynimaa had posted that he was on an airplane last night. Luckily, nobody asked if there was a doctor on the plane. Dr. Nestori Syynimaa.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Right? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to my talk about my experiences working with Microsoft. Actually, over 5 decades. Decades. So let's start. So hello, I come from Pete. This illustration, if you will, it's actually from a blog post, or I think it's like more like article series in MSRC. So I was the first researcher they interviewed for that, and they actually printed that on metal for me. And when I ordered that, I think I mixed the inches and centimeters because it was this high. But I don't have a picture about that. Anyway, so I'm gonna cover first how my relationship with Microsoft have evolved during the 5 last decades. And then I'm gonna share you a couple of last, let's say, cases I work with MSRC. So let's start from the 80s, which I call prehistorical era. So I'm actually that old. So I was a teenager at the end of the 80s, not in the beginning. I barely could talk then, but anyways, I was a hobbyist programmer. I had a Commodore 64. I don't know if you know that, but in Europe that used to be a thing. And then I also wrote some bytecode and also C. And that is what I did with Microsoft products. And at that time, Microsoft was something like that. It's a company that created DOS, or Disk Operating System. I don't know if you know DOS, but that's how I started. And also they had an editor called Edlin. Anybody remember that? So it was a line editor. So when you open a file for editing, it has a line numbers, then you had to say, I want to edit line number something, and then the line came there, and then you did the edit, and that's it. So it wasn't that good for programming. So it was like a pain in the, well, you know. And this is how it looked like. So the first DOS was like 1 point something, and it didn't even have directories. So if you want to do something, well, it's like a command prompt nowadays. So you type things and then something happens. And then we have a new DOS version and yet another DOS version. And if you look at that, you understand probably why I don't like dark mode anymore. Or ever like, because I did that on the 80s already. So that's the reason why I don't do dark mode anymore. Okay, and then to the 90s. So I was a teenager, and in my early 20s, I also became father twice. So everybody is good at something, and our family is good at, getting children. So I was 20 when I got my first one. And at that time, I worked as a graphic designer, but on summers, I did some summer jobs for local factories, and I was working as IT support. I also was a hobbyist programmer. I did C and C++, and I tried to study a bit, but I wasn't that lucky on that time. So I'm a doctor now, but I wasn't back then. I was nothing, so I was a dropout, if you will. And at that time, what Microsoft was well, it was still a company making DOS, but also Windows later on. So that's why I like what is that? What is the opposite of dark mode? Something white or bright, because we got Windows. It was amazing. You didn't have to type anything. You could move things with mouse, and I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. And also we got MS Editor, which meant that you could actually do some editing without typing in a line number first. So that's how I started to do more programming. So here are a couple of nice things from 90s. So we got MS-DOS 6.2. I don't know what the difference was when you compare this to number 3, but anyways, there was a new version. Windows 3.1, my first Windows. Who used that? A couple. Oh, you are old too. And then NT, and was it like it was not yet like Active Directory wasn't there, but anyways, a new Windows operating system again. And then one funny thing from the 90s. So do you know what is the biggest software release ever done by Microsoft? Well, I'll show you. So on the 90s, when I was 15 years old, so it was in the beginning of 90s, so when my friends, same age as me, went to summer jobs, they bought a moped, because we are living in a rural area, so it's good to move from other places to other places. But I bought this one, C/C++ version 7, and that actually weighed 40 pounds. And you had a 2 feet long, like a books, and a bunch of disks. So I think there were like 20 disks or something like that. So yeah, that's what I did when I was a teenager. I didn't throw a moped. And didn't have a girlfriend either, but it's a different thing. Okay, and then came year 2000, and that era I called love and hate. So I was in my late 20s and early 30s. I became a father again, so that C++ actually paid out. And I was working as a developer, full-time developer, but I did Lotus Domino or Lotus Notes. Who knows that? Okay, yes. And I actually loved that. It was a very logical thing, if you will. I did some Java, and then I became CTO of that company where I was working, and finally I moved to be a CIO in another company. And I started to study again. So I did my BBA, so that's a Bachelor of Business Administration, so nothing to do with technology. I did my MSc in 2009, and I'm a Master of Science on Economics and Business Administration. And also, I did my first Microsoft certification in 2001, and that was Visual C++. Okay, so at that time, what Microsoft was, what it was to me. So it was making my life miserable. Because when I changed to a CIO to the other company, I had to deal with things like SharePoint, Exchange, Active Directory. I didn't like that at all. That wasn't logical. The Domino was. That wasn't. So, yeah. But anyways, then I also, well, we became business partners with Microsoft. So we sold Dynamics CRM. We were the first company in Finland who built HMC, or hosted message and collaboration environment, by ourselves. And I was like leading that project. And at that time, there was a license program called SPLA, or Service Provider License Agreement. And the idea was that you could buy licenses from Microsoft and sell them to your customers with monthly fee. And we did that actually. So we built our own environment because from economical point of view or business point of view, it started to sound very good idea for me to sell things as a service, so that you don't need to invest stuff in your hardware or your like people to keep that up and running. So we built that kind of environment that we tried to sell things to people as a service, like email and SharePoint and of course the Dynamics CRM. But then came BPaaS, or Business Product Online Suite. So that's what Office 365 was called before. And Microsoft started to sell you guys, like Microsoft, you started to sell same service to people with lower cost than was the license when we were buying from Microsoft. So that business died in like one day. So we didn't do that anymore. But I like the idea anyways. So here are some things that make me sick still. So here's a SharePoint. But I'm actually a certified SharePoint administrator also. So that was the only exam that I missed. I almost got 1,000. I missed one question and still makes me what was it? And then we have Exchange, looks like this. And then Windows Server, 2003. And then finally something like 2008. And here's the HMC we built up, and then of course the nice BPaaS. And I think that was based on 2007 version of these products what we are looking at here. So SharePoint, Exchange Online, and Office Communication Online. And then it became Skype, and now it's Teams or something. Okay. And then 2010, and I call this making a living because that decade, every job I did has something to do with Microsoft. So you kind of are paying my salary. Okay, so I was in my late 30s and early 40s. I became grandfather twice, so I'm that old, yes. And I'm actually, when I flew here, I'm actually missing my granddaughter's 4th birthday. But yeah, that's what it happens. I want to be here. That much. Okay, so I was working as a CIO, but this time I was working as a CIO for 8 cities surrounding my hometown. So they had a joint like CIO. I was working there, and also started to work as an IT trainer. So one of my colleagues from my previous company started to work as an executive in one of the IT training companies in Finland, where I come from. And at that time, they were training like Azure Active Directory, Exchange, and that kind of things. But the executive was like that, hey, the cloud is going to be a good thing, so why don't we do this? And everybody said in the company, nah, that's not going to work. And then he asked that, could you come to teach that because you did the HMC stuff? And I said, oh, okay, I can do that. So most of the courses I ran, so they were like Office 365 deployment and administration, so they were sold out, most of them. So I think the cloud became something after all. And okay, and then I continued to study. So I did my PhD in 2015 in UK, in England, Henley Business School. And again, it was like a business stuff, not that IT. Well, actually, it was like enterprise architecture, to be specific. And I've been MCT since 2013, so this is my 10-year anniversary as an MCT. So I have a license to teach. And I also published the first version of AADInternals in 2018. By the way, who has heard about that? Okay, so that's the tooling I've done. I also have some stickers, so if you grab me later on, I can give you a sticker. I have only a few of them because the German people stole them from me. Because I was talking in another conference the day before this, so the day before yesterday, and I flew here and I'm flying back home after this day, so it's just a quick visit. But anyways, my stickers are in Germany. Okay. So what Microsoft was to me, so it was like business partner in training. It was also supplier, because as a CIO, we bought a lot of your licenses, a lot. And also I heard about a thing called MSRC first time. So I actually submitted something there, but it was always like, nah, that's not a bug, that's a feature. And here are just a couple of slides, and these are encrypted in Finnish, but there's just my introduction. Here I'm in front of our school, and here's Office 365, and here's a nice article from a Finnish newspaper. So that's me rolling to my office. So I actually have that one wheel, like Segway, and it's always people are looking at, what the heck is that one? It's a nice way to move around. And also I think it was in 2018, so this is again encrypted in Finnish. But what we are looking at is the guidelines for public sector on how to use cloud. And well, this is actually, the translation to English is not correct, but here are some definitions. And I would say that the 4 is the most important one. And basically it says that if you are buying some system, and if you compare that to on-prem solution, and if they are equal, like feature and pricing, you should pick the cloud version. So that's how we run things in Finland. And at that time, I was CIO in public sector, and then a sales guy or our contact from Finland, Microsoft Finland, called me that, hey, Nestori, have you seen these new guidelines? And I said, yes, I wrote them. So that's why we are quite ahead of cloud adoption in Finland, so you're welcome. And then to this current decade. So I'm on my mid-40s now. I work as a security researcher. I'm an MVP since 2020 and MVR since 21. So I've not been as productive as Callum has been. So only like 2 years in a row. And Microsoft is to me like business partner and also Pandora's box for security issues. So thanks for that. And during these couple of last year, I've also got some personal connections. Show them to you. And here are my certifications. So I have 16 active certifications at the moment. It's my MVP, so I'm finally security. So before that, I was like enterprise mobility because Azure Active Directory is enterprise mobility, right? But now it's fixed. And here's my first time in MVR list. I'm the last one, but I'm on the list. And then about personal connections. So we have this dude here, John. He is actually out of office today, but he came to see me. Just for me, or then maybe he just wanted to have the bacon, I don't know, to the breakfast. But anyways, it's nice to know personally people, and John has had a very big impact to your security stuff, and we kind of share a couple of, let's say, ideas every now and then. And here are the MSRC guys. Are you here? Maybe. And this is from BlueHat US last summer. And here we have Robert Rodriguez, which I'm honored to call friend. So this is from BlueHat Europe from last December from London. So I finally managed to get him to run. So he said in Vegas that he would run with me in the morning, but he didn't show up. But now we were able to make that. And we actually had a talk together in BlueHat Europe, and we got feedback last week, and we did quite well. So we got 4.5 out of 5. So the talk was okay, quite okay. But okay, so what do I do now? So, hi, I'm Nestori. So this is my introduction slide. So I work as a senior principal security researcher for SecureWorks counter-threat unit. And my job is to find security issues from your products, what you are doing. And then then my job is also to create countermeasures to our XDR solution. So how to detect stuff I found and how to fix that if that happens, or how to mitigate that. So how should we respond if we see this kind of things? And of course, I report everything to Microsoft. And also, when you report stuff to MSRC, you should have a proof of concept, right? And because I do my proof of concept using PowerShell, I immediately add that to my toolkit also, AADInternals. And then we publish findings. So that's what I do. I break stuff, I report stuff, and then we, publish our findings. Okay. So, and I know that I made some of your days a bit difficult every now and then, but that's my job. Sorry about that. Okay, so now let's sum up this, like how my relationship with Microsoft evolved. So from 80s to 2000, I was just a customer. So I gave you money, okay, and then I got back products. So that was my experience with Microsoft. Then in 2010, it was a little bit different, so I have a different roles. So first of all, as a trainer, I got software from you, free software. I could run whatever piece of software I wanted to. Also, we got like training material, which we then resold to our customers. And then when I was a CIO, I was a customer, but now I gave you much more money and got back software, mostly like cloud stuff, so Office 365 and that kind of licenses. And then I also had a relationship with MSRC. So I reported stuff, but they never like, that's it. I just reported stuff. So nothing got fixed, which I reported. But now, it's a bit different because I'm just a researcher. So I'm doing my dream job. I'm living my dream. I can, just do this stuff, and I don't need to. There's nothing management related or anything like that. So I can just research. That's what I like. But now, because I have those personal connections and I've been working with different, let's say, business units or parts of Microsoft, I kind of started to understand how it works internally. And then I found this picture which kind of summarizes that. So I think it's called like War of Business Units, right? So it kind of is like that, I would say. Okay, and now I have like different contact points. As an MVP, I will get a software from you and certain material that is not available for, let's say, normal mortals. I have the NDA. And then I talk to product groups, and also to Mystic every now and then. And then I have a special relationship with MSRC because now I report stuff, and now you also give me some money every now and then because you fix stuff. But that's kind of like how my relationship with Microsoft has evolved. So first I was just like a normal people out there buying stuff from you, and then we started to have a business together, and now I'm working as a researcher, and I have a very good relationship with you guys. But now I have some examples of past experiences about the cases I have reported. So this is going to be the fun stuff. But before that, yes. So when I'm working with MSRC, every now and then it feels like the response I got back, it's gibberish or nonsense. And it seems to me and other researchers too also that maybe your internal communication is not the best possible. So that it feels like, did you even talk to others inside the organization? So that's kind of a thing I would like to show to you. Okay, so here's the first case. Undetected Azure AD directory brute force attacks. And I reported this to Microsoft, was it 21? Yes, on June. And MSRC answered back that, okay, this is by design. And what happens here actually? What is the technical thing here? So if you are using a thing called single sign-on, there's a certain endpoint where your Windows endpoint is sending Kerberos ticket. And then it changed that ticket to SAML token, and then there's another endpoint where you send that SAML token. Better? Okay. So that's another endpoint where you send that SAML token, then you get back access token. But then, well, actually, he's currently my colleague, another researcher from Finland, Joshua Santasalo. He found out that the first endpoint I mentioned, you can actually send your username and password, so your credentials, and you can exchange those to SAML token, and then use that SAML token to get access token. Now, if you do this in a legit way, so you log in using correct credentials, there will be an event in sign-in events when you exchange that SAML token to access token, but not from the first one. So that meant that threat actors could use the first endpoint to send passwords, but they were not like logged anywhere. So you could use that for brute forcing. And there was no event anywhere. So I told that to Microsoft, and they said that it's by design, okay. And then I shared the draft of our threat analysis, as we call them. And then we published that on September 21st inside our XDR product. So we have like a portal where we publish these kind of things first to our customers. But one of our customers leaked that to public. We don't know who, but they leaked that. And then it got some press coverage. And when we published that in September 29th, then the very next day Microsoft approached us and said that, okay, we fixed this. And it was fixed. And afterwards, when I talked to another researcher, he said that he had already reported this to Microsoft earlier. And to him, they told that, okay, we are going to fix this. But to me, they said, there's nothing to be fixed. So that's one thing to understand, that researchers talk to each other. They know things, okay? And also, like, we are not the bad guys. We want things to be fixed. So if you would have told us that, okay, we want to postpone that for, let's say, 2 weeks because we are going to fix that, we would have done that. But if you say that this is not going to be fixed, we have the obligation to share that information to our customers, right? Because if we don't do that, our customers hear that, okay, you knew that and you didn't tell us. Well, that's not a good thing, right? So yeah, so this was the first case, kind of what can happen. Second one, case 2, Azure AD exposes internal information. So do you know a thing called SARA? Software assurance, or what is it? And support agent. So anyways, it's a piece of software that you run on computer that has problems to connect to cloud, like Microsoft 365 or email or whatever you're using. And it is using, for back-end things, it is using certain API. And I found out that using that API, you could get information of any tenant in the world. You could get licenses, for instance, your licenses. I could check that what you have, and certain settings from your tenant. And I reported that to MSRC, and they were fixed. But then I found there's another API that has the same features, reported that, and that got fixed too. But when I tried that, did those fixes actually work? Well, kind of, but there were 2 issues that still remained. And the first one was that you could get a name, email address, and phone number of the person who created your tenant, Azure AD tenant. And that is usually global admin, so the information is like bad. And the other one is that you could get status of your Azure AD directory synchronization of any tenant you wanted to. And if you ask from that API that is the organization using synchronization, it answers that yes or no. You can ask your admin to fix that. And 3, the password of this user, which was the synchronization user, is going to expire in 30 days. So you could get the email address of a very powerful, let's say, account. And I said that, okay, it is okay. Those things are fixed except for these 2 things, and then they closed this later on as fixed. So then we published this information, and then a week after, again, Microsoft says that, okay, we fixed this. So for me, it seems that the people who should have seen that report didn't see that. So after we published this, the people on different parts of Microsoft saw that, okay, that is happening, that's not good. So you're going to fix this, right? And I actually got bounty afterwards for that finding, even though it originally was kind of like just by design. So that was one thing. And then the third one. So this is about bypassing Azure AD home tenant, MFA, and conditional access. And the term bypassing here is under debate, but anyways, we call it that. And long story short, this was found by an Indian researcher called Shravan Akkaram originally, and he reported this to Microsoft way back before we reported this, and he got back like, this is by design, and he was ranting about that in Twitter and tagged me there, and then I approached him that, okay, I can have a look. And we actually did that, and we had a meeting with MSRC, and we decided to split the report to 3 different reports, and here is only 2 of them, and the third one is another case. And yesterday I got notification from BlueHat Asia, so we are actually going to present this there, this case. But anyways, we reported those 2 cases to MSRC, and they are by design. And I'm going to show now what are those things. So, this is how Azure AD works. So when you normally log in, you don't actually log into your tenant, but you are logging into something called ESTS, which is Evolved Security Token Service. And basically that's login.microsoftonline.com. So when you try to log into your home tenant, ESTS is going to get your username and password, and then they are checking that against your tenant. And if they are correct, it's going to evaluate the MFA and conditional access. So if you use conditional access and you say that, okay, I want to block this user, that he or she is not able to log in, or that I can say that, okay, you can log in, but you need to use MFA as a home tenant admin, right? But if you are logging directly to the resource tenant, then ESTS is going to get your credentials and check against your home tenant AD, but it is not evaluating MFA and CA. Okay? But they are evaluating those of the resource tenant if there are any. So this kind of allows you to bypass your home tenant MFA and CA. But what do you do with, so why does it matter? Well, I'll show you what happens. So here's a demo, let's see how this works. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to get access token. I'm going to use my own credentials to SecureWorks. So I'm typing here my username. And then password, summer of 2023, exclamation mark. And now it's prompting me for MFA. Okay, because we have conditional access that everybody needs to use MFA when you log in. Okay, but now if I'm trying to log in to another tenant, like for instance any business to consumer tenant, so I have a tenant b2c.aadinternals.com, and I don't have like any MFA requirements, so I again type in my username and then the same password. And now, okay. So now I got the access token. But what can I do with that is that I can log in to another tenant and then using that access token, what happens? Okay, that's better. So somebody is censoring there, pressing the button, yes. So anyways, with that access token, you can still ask from Azure AD that which tenants I'm part of. So here we are. So I can see that I'm part of Dell tenant also because they own us. So that's kind of that. Then we have another tenant. I don't know what's that. So I'm probably just a guest user in some other tenant. So this means that if you or if threat actor is able to fish your credentials, and even though you have MFA, you can still log in to Azure AD and get the list of tenants where you're a member of. And not all the tenants have MFA, so then you could log into those and then be that user. So that's what we kind of reported. And we call that like MFA bypass. And there's nothing the home tenant admin can do using conditional access, so you just can't do anything. So that's how it's designed and that's how it works. And that's a design choice that it is going to be like that and it's not going to be fixed, at least now. So that's how it works. Okay, so then we published this. I posted a LinkedIn message or post about this, and then someone shared that. But then this happened. So one of you guys said that, or commented that anything can be bypassed if that's misconfigured. So we have options available for that. And I asked, okay, which options? And silence. That was the end of that question. Okay. And then another dude, again from Microsoft, and I think these guys know each other because you might be even here. And because it was like seconds after about that. And it says that misconfigured. That you can do stuff. And I said, you can't actually with conditional access. Or is there something that I don't understand? And we can see that's edited. And what's edited? Well, there used to be word clickbait, but that was removed. So I don't know how this happened, but yeah. And then the discussion continues that have you read the blog? Because I said that you can't do that, actually. And then, yes, I think this is the last message related to that. But anyways, I mistyped something. I forget some word there. But again, I asked that what is there that we can actually do? So is there something correct in my statement here? And also in other statement. But that's it. That's the end of the question or discussion. So I didn't get the answer that what was wrong. And then what I did is that I tweeted about this. That it never stops to amaze me that some people in Microsoft get things personally. But you don't need to. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about that product, the Microsoft product. It's not about you. And then I got a lot of like supportive messages from people from Microsoft, like Rob DeYoung, who said that, okay, keep doing what you're doing. Because every time you find something, we have much less security incidents, and we had a lot of similar experience from other researchers. And also I got a lot of personal messages, but that, hey, keep doing what you're doing. But anyways, the point of this was that if something is wrong, what I'm telling, just tell me what is wrong. I will fix that. I'm a scientist. That's how science works. You have assumptions based on your data. If there's something wrong in the data or you misunderstood something, we're going to fix that. So that's how science works. Let's wrap up. So takeaways from my talk. So we researchers are the good guys, remember that. So we want to get these things fixed. So we are not, at least try to be dicks. We just try to be, good guys. And most people outside Microsoft doesn't know how you work. So when they say that Microsoft sucks, it means that the general company sucks, not you personally, right? So that's a good thing to remember. And MSRC is suffering from the broken telephone, or is it called Chinese whispering or something like that in here. So we are reporting something to MSRC, they are reporting that, and then the answer comes back and so on. And so there's a multiple point of contact as are discussing with each other, and the message always changes. And we, as a researcher, we really would like to talk directly to the product groups or engineering. So it would be easier to explain things directly and not using that form that is out there. And when we provide you like block drafts or something, it is okay to ask to postpone. We want things to be fixed. That's the first thing. And if you say that you are fixing something, we can wait until that. But if you are saying that we are not going to fix, as I explained earlier, that's our obligation to report that people know that it is. And finally, if we say something that is wrong, just tell me how is that wrong. Okay, that makes it easier for us to, report stuff in the correct way. And here's how to follow me. So we have the Bird app and then the not Bird app. I'm on both. And with that, thank you.